Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining me and my guest, Tony Griffith, who's going to talk tonight about British New Guinea forge cancels and the detection methods. And he's got a few other presentations up his sleeve before the end of the night. So this is another one in the series of the efforts that the Society of Australasian Specialists is putting on, and these will all eventually show up on YouTube, so you can. If you miss something, you want to refresh your memory, it'll be there, or pass it on to your friends so they can see it. No charge. It's all there for the betterment of the hobby. And if you have any suggestions that you think
No,
of uh, of uh, of topics that should be covered, let me know, and we'll uh, endeavor to make it happen. Anyhow, so without much to do here, I'm just going to hand it over to Tony. And so, Tony, take it away.
Yeah, firstly, thanks, Steve, for inviting me to do this presentation. I haven't done one of these for a long time, so I might be a bit rusty, so we'll just have to work through that. Okay, so let's start. So this is a list of what I'm going to go through in this first section. White cancellation. I'm going to talk about the barred ovals, the B&G and NG ones, the Sperati forged barred ovals, and a couple of ways the forgers have tried to basically fake stamps and fake cancels and do that sort of thing. And then the last section is to do with the official destruction of the obliterators, and I'll explain a bit further when we get to that. So why fake a cancellation? Well, the two obvious things are to enhance the value of a mint stamp. So you can see there's a couple of examples there, and this was done in 2013, so the prices have changed obviously since then. So you can see if they put a cancel on a base stamp, it almost doubles the value, and in some cases it triples, even quadruples the value. Put a little note there. Forgers generally aren't stupid. Sometimes they are, but generally they aren't. So they fake the cancels on the high value stamps very rarely, and they would rather do it on the lower catalogue value stamps. And they also do it to add legitimacy to a forged stamp, such as the Sperati forgeries of the B&G 2 and 6, and sometimes to hide removal of the Papua overprint, so therefore making it the earlier stamp without the overprint. Here's a couple of examples. The genuine one on the left, you can tell, and I should start with saying that not all forgeries are the same. Of course, they've got various slight little discrepancies between them. Generally, the forgers try and make the stamps appear to be, genuine, but many times they don't. I mean, there's a couple of things here that are pretty basic. On the forgery on the right-hand side, you'll see that the foot of the G is not curved as the one on the genuine one is. It's more like a sort of an inverted L on the right-hand one. So that's just one example. And how I discovered that was in the Australian Philatelist from 1915. They had a section about forgeries, and it basically shows you what I've just explained, that in fact, it goes into a greater detail here with various slight discrepancies, but the main one to me is that the foot of the G. I think a lot of these occurred in the early part of the 20th century, so, from probably 1900 to 1915 when this was done. So they must have been pretty, there must have been a lot of them going around at the time. So here's a couple of examples. The top one is from the late Peter Troy's collection, which I have now. It's an early samurai cancel. And there's one that was a little bit later below that. Here's a couple of examples of the Port Moresby cancel that have been, or the one on the right is the forgery, one on the left is the genuine one. You can see on the genuine one on the left that has short centre bars, and the longer bars above and below the letters B and G. You'll see this little sort of scooping out of there and above there. Well, this is a forgery, and you can see there's none of that. And also on the forgery, the middle bars are quite long compared to the real one. So there's just a couple of ways you can check if there's any of those discrepancies. With samurai, there was a forgery done, probably multiple forgeries of this one, and you can see on the original or the genuine stamp cancel that the centre bar is quite thick and it's pointing down slightly. On this forgery, that bar is thin and it's horizontal. The letters are fairly good, but it's one other way you can sort of look at these cancels and tell if it's a forgery. The shape of the letters, and also, often more importantly, the bars, and whether they're thicker or thinner than the originals. What I use, and don't know whether you can see this because it gets a bit of a reflection, but it's a plastic sheet, and what was done is and it was done by a colleague of mine after I'd talked to him about it. He photocopied the various cancels from Roger Lee's book and put them on a sheet of plastic. So what you can then do is superimpose that sheet of plastic on top of a stamp with a cancel on, and basically you can compare it one to the other, and it's done at exactly the same size as the genuine cancel, so it's pretty easy to tell from that whether it's a real cancel or not. A few of you have probably seen these. It's a samurai cancel, but it has a sort of a blob in the centre of the B, and the story goes that there was a cancel implement found in the post office at Samurai, which was still in existence, and this is a number of years after these weren't, had become sort of old-fashioned, and you can tell because all of them have that blob. So it's from a real implement, but they were done per favour, or on fake cancels. I think mostly they were done per favour. So some people in the post office could make $1 or $2, I guess. One of the most famous forgers of all time, of course, was Sperati, and he faked a cancel. He never put the full cancel on the stamp. They tended to be just a partial cancel, and you can see it's the right-hand side of the forgery is pretty poor. So I think that's why and I don't know why he did that, but on the left is an example of the top left-hand section of that. And basically it doubled the value from a current SG16A to a used one, and it was basically that stamp now with a cancel on it, a sporadic cancel, is worth more than the original. So occasionally fakes do make money. This is one from my collection. It's what the forger did here is it had the word Papua overprint on it. So it was a SG16A, and he's put a fake cancel on it. And for some reason, and I don't know why they did this, but you see them sometimes with the place name of a Scandinavian town. And in this case, there was a town name of Inawa Portna. I have no idea why he did that, because that town doesn't exist in the world. I've done a search, and it's just a made-up name. So why would you do that? Why would you not put the name of a town that actually had a cancel? You know, it was a legitimate cancel. I don't know. But it sometimes works. You can actually just see the word Papua in there. It's sort of looks a little bit rusted, but basically the forger got rid of that and then cancelled it to make it look like a properly cancelled stamp. And then there's the modern forgers. Often they're fairly good. But on the left-hand one, you'll see that the thick middle bar is angled down, as it should be, but the bar under that is horizontal. The real cancellation has this bar also angled downwards. Again, if you had one of these plastic sheets and you could put it over one of those, you'd see immediately that it was wrong. The official destruction of obliterators. I'm a member of the Royal Sydney Club, and I was looking through their files one day, and I noticed this document. It's a list of all the forged Australian cancels done by various forgers at the time, and this is about the late 1940s, I think 1947 or something like that. And they're not just New Guinea or British New Guinea ones. You'll see there on the left-hand side, there's some quite good ones of early Sydney, early Melbourne, Victoria. The bottom right-hand one is Tasmanian cancel. Even a Norfolk Island and New Hebrides cancel. So this was all done as a deed, a proper document, and you'll see on the bottom left that the president of the Sydney Club has signed it, the president of the Philatelic Society of New South Wales, there was a JP witnessed it, and even the co-editor of the Australian Stamp Journal has signed it. What they did with the original cancellers, as you can see on the right-hand side, or the original forged cancels, was they got a file and vertically filed them and horizontally filed them. So they basically defaced the forged implements. And the idea was that they would then get them all together. They'd all walk down to Sydney Harbour and throw them in Sydney Harbour, so they could never be used again. That was the idea. So here's some of the New Guinea and BNG ones from that deed, and you can see, as I was saying earlier, the bottom one that's titled number 3 is an obvious forgery. The New Guinea one, top right and top left, are obvious forgeries. And for some reason, they also put the Cancel 183, numeral 183, of Cooktown. Now, Cooktown was a major port coming down to Australia from Papua, but it's wrong. 183 is from Paddington, New South Wales, not Cooktown. 178 is the Cooktown cancel. So why they didn't even get that right is beyond me. So that's that one. I thought I'd put this one in, and it's a little bit of a postal history mystery, actually. Some of you may have seen the bottom left-hand or the left-hand cover. There was a number of these. I believe so far we've counted about 15, but I think it's probably going to be more like 17 or 18 of the covers on the left. It's purportedly the first use of that date stamp and the obliterator for Port Moresby, done in 1891. Now, what got me to thinking about these was I have the cover on the right, and looking at all the others that I've seen on eBay and at auctions, none of them have the addressee's name. My one has the addressee's name, Mr. J. Cox. I don't know why that specifically had that, but I thought there's something to these. And I know one of the major dealers in Melbourne says that these were all philatelic contrivances, which I found it really strange. And the reason was, and I asked myself a few questions. Look, why weren't they philatelic? So I thought, well, why, if you were doing this, most philatelists would mail covers overseas, get them cancelled at the post office and have them sent back. That's the usual way of doing things. These weren't. These had a post office box number in Brisbane, which was a bit strange. And then I thought, well, what would be the reason for doing that? Why were there so many covers sent out? And a colleague on the Queensland Stamp Facebook site discovered in Trove that there was an advertisement in there for tenders calling for the book debts and outstanding accounts in an insolvent estate. And I thought, this is a bit strange. And then what got me was that the post office box 54 GPO Brisbane is exactly the same as addresses on these all these covers. So why would they do that? It still remained a mystery to me. So I thought, could it be, and I've explained it down in the bottom there, I thought they might have been regular tender requests from the Queensland Trustees Executors Agency, who that Leo Benjamin was a trustee of, that he might have sent them as tenders and put a tender offer in each one of these covers. And they may have been for different insolvent estates and that sort of thing. So I thought, that looks like it might be what happened. So as far as I know, that is what did happen. And then I thought, what if I have a look at the writing, who they were addressed to, and not who they were addressed to, what was the writing style on the handwriting? So I had a look through the handwriting of the other correspondence I've seen by the people high up in the government at the time, the Lieutenant Governor, the Government Secretary, the Commandant of the Port Moresby Garrison. And I thought, well, it would be strange that a person so high up in the government would be sending tenders in. So that didn't add up to me. So I thought, well, maybe they got someone to do it, but it's sort of still is a bit up in the air. But at least I've sort of got a bit of evidence to say that they weren't philatelically contrived. But they are still nice covers. And in fact, that cover, let's go back here. The cover on the left was out of Roger Lee's book on page 5, I think it is. So if you've got Roger Lee's book, you can have a look at it and see. So the last part of the presentation is letter rates in Papua during the bicolour stamp period, 1916 to 1932. This is an exhibit I did, a one-frame exhibit, and you'll see that during the various time periods that the bicolours were in use, that the rates changed quite a bit, and the rates for Papua were exactly the same as the rates in Australia because they had originally been under Queensland administration and still were in this period. They used the same rates. There's an example of one to England with a couple of halfpenny bicolours on it. One example, Port Moresby to Glasgow, solo usage, and an example of the rate at the time. Another one to England. And then there's one to Apia Samoa. And I asked Steve the other day about the left-hand bottom stamp of the top cover is a tuppenny halfpenny bicolour, but it's a different colour to all the other ones that I've seen and the ones that I have. They're just different. It's a different shade. And I asked him whether he'd seen it. I don't know if any of you may have seen that. I have a couple of the 2 or 3 of these covers that were sent to the same guy, registered. It's philatelic, of course, but all of them have that same shade. So I don't know. Steve, I think, suggested that maybe it was from a sheet that was left out in the sun that the collector had and changed colour because of sunlight. I'm not sure. The one at the bottom is an example of the 1 penny overprint sent to a well-known philatelist, Wilson. The rates then changed quite quickly. There's one there, from 21 to 22, and then another rate from 22 to 24. The top one is to another well-known philatelist, Meister, at one of his addresses. I think he had 2 or 3 different addresses in the US. That's Amarillo, Texas, that one. There's the bottom one is to Canada, the tuppenny rate, which was the Empire rate at the time. The cover on the top is a little unusual because it was sent to an address that is pretty rare to see in Copenhagen in Denmark. It also has the 4 penny stamp paying the foreign rate. The bottom stamp is to Reverend Gill, a well-known name. You'll see on a lot of covers. He's a reverend and he is a philatelist as well, but he did write a lot of letters back to the UK and covers from the UK coming to where he was living, which I think was on the Mamba River. in Papua. Another rate change from Lasuia to Samurai, so that's actually penny halfpenny, Empire rate. Bottom one, that was to the Treasurer in Port Moresby, Bank of New South Wales, so that's purely a commercial cover. Top one, another commercial cover to Burns Philp in Samurai. So that was within Papua, that one. The bottom was a registered one to England. Montgomery Ward, and I was speaking to Steve the other day. He said there was someone like, what was that, Steve? What was that
It was like
organisation?
Sears Roebuck. It was like a
Sears Roebuck, yeah,
a
very
mail
similar to them.
mail
Yeah,
order catalog folk.
yeah. You see a lot of Papua covers with that address to that company. Bottom one was a fairly rare one to Port-au-Prince in Haiti. You don't see many going to Haiti from Papua. And then the airmail issues came out. There's a letter, Port Moresby to England, registered, paying the correct registered rate. The bottom one, Port Moresby to Dunedin, threepenny airmail and twopenny surface rate. Wilcox Smith and Co. Stamp dealers. Philatelic, and yet probably not. Might have contained stamps, who knows. So it's sort of commercial. The line between commercial and philatelic, as you all know, is pretty thin at times. The top one is another one to Reverend Gill, and this is a huge cover. I don't know what it had in it, but it's certainly unusual. Maybe had some sort of documents or I don't know, something like that. The Ioma cancel on it is pretty rare to get in red. You don't see many of those. Bottom cancel, the bottom cover rather, another long cover from Port Moresby to Newcastle. The reason that screen the scan looks sort of cut is because my A3 printer at the time I did this was had packed it in, so I used my A4 scanner and scanned and then joined it. Not a very good job, but it's the best I could do at the time. Okay, another rate change. It's the Harrison printing on the threepenny on the top to Pango Pango and Samoa. Bottom one registered Port Moresby, San Francisco. Not sure about that. It was either underpaid or paid the foreign rate mistakenly. It's a little bit unusual. Some more ones that, particularly the bottom one is interesting. It has the Deep Carmen overprint of the airplane. Supposedly there were only 10 sheets of that done in the first printing. They were a trial printing. But my colleagues in the PPS have seen, and myself have seen, more than 10 sheets. So there must be or provable parts of each sheet. So the printer's name on the bottom. So there's more than 10, but that's what it says in the catalogue. So they just haven't caught up with reality. Another couple of interesting ones. Top one on the left is to France. One on the right, another long cover. And the last one, a bit unusual to find a 9penny on on a stamp, paid double the Empire rate, but it's unusual to find the ninepence on that. You don't see many of those, particularly from Buena Bay. So that's it. Sorry if it was boring, which it probably was to some people, but anyway. All right, Steve.
All right, I'm going to get everybody on. Let's see if I can figure out how to do this to open up. There's a little squiggle on the screen there. What's that? Is that your screen?
It's not me. I have no idea.
Huh,
Can't do a squiggle.
it's funny. Okay, let me see how. Let me. Okay, I'm gonna unmute everybody.
The squiggle is something my computer did. Ricky's.
Say, Tony, this is Jerry Wyrick. Question for
Hi.
you.
Yeah.
There's a group of, I'll call them modern forgers in the Sydney area,
Yeah.
and they're doing a lot of forgeries right now of like overprints, perfins, things that they can take, and they're also forging older material by not faxing, but copying, photocopying, and things like that. Have you
Yeah.
noticed any forgeries coming from them?
Oh yeah, there's a lot of those around. And they're fairly well done, which is a bit of a problem. Again, if you had one of these sheets, you could superimpose that, which I've done on a couple of those, and they're pretty close and pretty close to reality. And that's, you know, pretty dangerous as far as, you know, buying these things is concerned. You know, people say, oh, look, you know, you really need to buy, if you're going to buy these, you know, buy them with a certificate from an expert. But I've seen so many expert certificates that have been proven wrong.
Anything but.
Yeah. You know, some of them are just so obviously bad. I don't know, you know, just a waste of money, but, you know, it helps sells it, I guess. Yeah. So
Okay.
yeah,
Well, at least,
there are a few coming out, and I don't know how you stop that.
yeah.
Because the
Well,
police
at
don't
least
want to
you're
know
aware of
anything
them.
about it. Oh yeah, yeah. In fact, I've met one of the guys. I did a bit of a undercover operation at one stage, and I met one of the guys, and even went into his office that he had set up, which strangely was only about 3 kilometres from where I live in Sydney. So, yeah, he had it all set up. It was funny when I never forget when I walked in there, he had his screen on eBay, and I thought, and then he quickly went over and turned turned it off. And he was in the middle of loading some stuff up. But yeah, uh, there's no way you can stop these people.
Did he get in trouble? I
Unfortunately.
mean, since you know about that, did that guy get into trouble with the
No,
government?
no, no, no. Police don't want to know, and unless it's some huge fraud, they're too busy. They haven't got enough, you know, police around to do what they're doing now, let alone chase some, you know, $1,000 or $2,000 forgery. You know, they just
Yeah, we have the problem here in the States where, all these people are advertising on eBay, and when I opened up my screen in the morning, people are advertising, first class stamps for 10 cents on the dollar. Yeah, how's that
mm,
happen? So,
mm,
Print them in
yeah.
China and mail them here,
yeah,
or UPS them or whatever.
yeah. I see, Roy.
Good morning, Steve. Good morning, everybody.
Good to see you.
Yeah, I tried. I was getting in there before 8 a.m. Brisbane time, but the old computer was not complying, so that's why I was a bit late.
Oh, sorry. Well, glad you could make it.
Thank you. Very interesting, Tony.
Yeah, as I said, I hope I didn't bore everyone. It's some of those things are not exactly, super interesting, but interesting to some of us, I guess. To me, particularly, I really like postal history. In fact, I've sort of gone off Papua and New Guinea stamps and cancels now. I'm really into the early Queensland material. Probably there's a bit of a crossover there because Queensland was administrating Papua early on. So maybe it's because of that, I'm not sure, but I managed to get a couple of really good collections. I'm on the Queensland Facebook site and I've found quite a lot of cancels that have never been seen before and different versions of cancels and that sort of thing. And that's got me intrigued a bit. And I've managed to get a lot of fairly early covers as well. So that's interesting to me at the moment until I change to something else, as we often do, us collectors.
Tony, this is Frederick. The slide with the Sperati forgery,
Yeah.
the stamp also forged?
No, it wasn't.
I thought that I read on the slide that the stamp was forged.
No, the stamp wasn't forged. It's the actual cancel that was forged on it. And he never put a full cancel on. It was always a partial cancel, but that's what he was known for. And they are Speratis until some smart forger starts doing this partial cancel and tries to fob it off as a Sperati, because as I said, they're worth more than the stamp itself now. It's more that SG16A, they're worth double that. So why not put a fake cancel on it? And if you send it to an expert, he wouldn't know, have no idea.
Well, it's interesting that the what befell Papua and New Guinea stamps 100 years ago, or the turn of the century, is the same problem now, in that
Oh yeah,
mint stamps much more easily to find than the used ones.
It's interesting though. You say that, but it was quite acceptable to buy faked stamps or fake cancels on stamps very early on because people wanted to fill their collections up.
Right.
And if they had a blank spot, well, they just went to one of the stamp dealers and said, I mean, there's a few well-known ones other than Sperati that did that sort of thing. You just order one and you get one. Someone would go out the back, print it off straight away and bring it out and you paid your money and you got it. And that was acceptable back then. It wouldn't be now, of course, but yeah.
Now they just print it out back and put it on eBay. Same thing, just a different style.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, Tony, this is Jerry again. I'll make one more observation. I found it very interesting that when you said that the officials in Sydney ended up defacing and then throwing these obliterators, into Sydney Harbor. It was it reminded me of the fact that in Tasmania, the Tasmanian officials, when they withdrew the numeral obliterators in around 1900, 1901, they ended up throwing them into the Derwent River.
The people in Sydney in the late 1940s must have known that, and they did exactly the same thing.
A lot of energy was spent here doing this to the defacing the forge cancels.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Did they put the same energy into the standard cancels?
Yeah. As I said, if you have a look on the left there, the Melbourne and the Sydney ones are beautifully done. I mean, that's done by a professional
lovely.
professional person. That's, you know, I don't know what trade he would have been in, but they're probably better than the originals. They certainly look better than I think the originals came out. Yeah, you wouldn't.
I'm sorry. The idea of everybody gets in their heads they want to get rid of something, they just toss it in the ocean. So we see that here in Tasmania, and then also in Sydney, and in I think it was Bermuda in the early '60s. They had a problem with some stamp issues, so they took it. Either it was Bermuda or the Falklands. Maybe someone remembers. They had a whole wad of stamps in a big thick packet in a big heavy box, and the postmaster went out into the harbor, took the box, threw it overboard, and the parcel drifted back to shore. So then they had to take it and they had to try to burn it, and it was like quite a problem. So they created a problem for themselves.
Actually, I'm on the air. Yes, I am.
Yes.
Yep.
The dumping in the sea or in the ocean is fairly well-known practice. The army used to do it with their obsolete weapons, to take them out and dump them out at sea until
Right.
the fishermen started dredging them up in their nets.
Mm.
Now they
Nothing like
take
a
them to the
live-
steelworks. Now they
nothing like
take them to the steelworks and smelt them.
Nothing like a live World War I bomb in with your salmon when you're fishing.
Get that extra charge out of that fish.
Yeah, wow.
Whew.
And I mean,
Yeah.
both the
Well, one
U.S. and
thing.
the British put biological nerve gas weapons into the ocean too.
Mm.
Which, if you dilute it in the ocean, it's no big deal. But if you bring one to the surface by mistake, it kind of wrecks your fishing trip for the year.
Yeah. Yeah. One thing I was going to say was that I've seen a few cancelling implements over the years on eBay and that sort of thing. And that's again, if someone was to buy that and start cancelling stamps per favour, and you can make, again, it's sort of almost, well, it is, it's forgery, whether it's detectable or not, but because if you've got an actual implement that was used at the time and by the government, by the post office, and you put it on an oldish cover and address it, with ink they used at the time, who would know if it's a forgery or not? I mean, you just can't tell then, because the implement is the same as it was the original. And I don't know how you stop that, but I've seen a few over the years sold on eBay. None in auctions that I can remember, but mainly on eBay. Yeah.
There's a few South Australian ones that have turned up in auction,
Oh.
and there's one or two. I think there's one numeral cancel that's still out there, but all the collectors know about it. It's diamond numeral 26.
Oh, okay, right.
Yeah, 26 is still around. I think the post office is closed now. I'm not sure, but the cancel is still out there. And it appears every now and then.
Oh. Yeah.
But I had the job, a good many years ago now, of assessing and all of the cancelling instruments that were in the the former post office museum in Adelaide, and they part of the job was that identified any colonial cancels had to be kept for to go into the post office records, and a number of more rare later ones also were put aside. One in particular, and I never get the name right. It's the longest post office name to South Australia. It was way up in the north of South Australia, Tinakadina, and that's been around for a long time with a partial date line in it. And when I did the assessment, I changed the date that was on there so that I'll know if anybody gets hold of it and tries to do any strikes of it, I'll know. And I made sure that most collectors, the postmark collectors, also know about it. It's one of those things. It would appear every now and then as a strike somewhere or another, and so I thought, okay, I'll fix this. I'll change the date.
Yeah, smart move.
Yeah. But I presume that I kept a strike of every one of the implements that was there. I made up a sheet and I kept a strike of every one of them that was there, which has now become a reference around the place. Some of the collectors know I've got it, and there was a strike. A set of the same papers went to the post office, went to the Australia Post, and then when they packed up everything that was there, I'm presuming that they did what they said they were going to do, and that all the colonial ones went to Melbourne, and that they destroyed the remainder. But I don't know. I really don't know what happened to them after that. My job finished when I did a strike of every one that was there.
Were the strikes that you're showing on the screen now all done by the same person? Do you know?
I don't know. No, that isn't in the documentation at all. You would think so, particularly with the better ones, but I don't know.
Yeah. I'm slightly puzzled by the New Hebrides cancellation because it's actually got a different date on it.
I mean, 02 versus 07?
Yes, one says 22 DE07, the other one says 6
That's December 22nd. DEC, so that's
Yes,
December.
the other one of the one which was broken up says the 6th of April 1902.
Oh. Can't quite see that. Hold on. Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. I've never noticed that.
Yeah.
Oh, well, maybe someone kept one for posterity. So if you see a cover with that on it, you know it's dodgy.
Yeah, I
Yes,
suppose my ignorance is showing here, but isn't Melbourne in Victoria?
Yeah.
But the cancel says New South Wales. Was it ever part of New South Wales?
yes.
I didn't think so.
Yeah, it was. Early on it was.
Okay.
In fact, New South Wales incorporated at one stage
Everything.
Queensland, New South Wales, Victoria, and New Zealand.
And Northern Territory.
And
and
Tasmania.
Northern Territory as well. Oh, there you go. Yeah.
It
And
started
Tasmania.
It started out just one country because there was nobody there, or nobody writing letters, and then gradually got split up into the states we know today.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Melbourne, that would have been, the name Victoria didn't come into it until the colony, the Victoria actually separated, it would have been the Port Phillip district. Melbourne, New South Wales, but Port Phillip district is what they
Okay.
usually referred to it as.
Just like the Moreton Bay district in
Yeah, Moreton
Queensland.
Bay. Yeah, same thing.
Yeah.
And the only settlement in Northern Territory in that period, pre-1869, would have been Port Essington, I think. And I think there's a few strikes around from that period in Northern Territory, but not very much. The correspondence coming out of there. It wasn't until New South Wales effectively handed Northern Territory over to South Australia that anything happened up there.
Right. Mm.
And that's why the overland telegraph got built, because South Australia had control of the Northern Territory, and they could build across their own territory with the telegraph line, rather than coming from somewhere else and having to cross the border into another jurisdiction.
Right. Mm.
Makes sense.
So
Yeah.
Richard pointed out that anomaly with New Hebrides, but the Melbourne cancel is the same way. It's a different one. It's
Yeah.
January 2 on the what's been defaced.
I've just looked that one up in the in the book that the Pacific Island Study Circle did on the forge cancels of forge cancellations of the New Hebrides, and the one dated the 22nd of December. That one is specifically mentioned in there, and it says it's a very dangerous postmark on New South Wales stamps. But it gives no mention of the other one, the 6th of April. That's very
Mm.
strange, isn't it?
It is. It is very strange.
It's not even
Okay.
mentioned in here.
Mm.
It looks like the Sydney one could have some of the same problems. The first five in 1855, it looks like 1815 or 1845 or something.
1845, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, it looks different too.
Yeah.
Yes,
Interesting.
it is. Yes, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. You would think even if there were multiple ones, they would have got imprints of them and put them on another page in this deed. I don't quite know why that's not hasn't been done. That one's okay, 1860, the Sydney one. Yeah.
Yeah, that one looks okay.
You know, for those of us who remember when we've defaced cancellation devices in our past, would you just print one example? If you have like 6 different cancels and you're getting rid of all of them, you
Mm.
you deface all of them and then you show the postmark of all of them, or you just do one?
Mm.
You should show them of them all.
In theory, but
Yeah.
Yeah, you would think so.
If you're trying to document what you've damaged, you should show everything.
no, I agree, but maybe not. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. And they
That's great.
don't,
Go
they
ahead.
don't even show that incorrect Cooktown 183 sunburst on that other sheet.
Right.
Oh, yes, they do. Up the top. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think I mentioned before everybody got on, this is maybe for Rory's benefit. There's some new postmarks in Papua New Guinea that came out in the last year or so, different towns. And of course, the authorities there have been very anxious to get them to me, so I'm still waiting. But it'll eventually show up in the journal when they finally show up when they file.
Thanks. Yep. Thanks, Steve.
Well, the next, I don't know, I'm not going to stop the conversation, but the next presentation is on June 19th, and that'd be Ian McMahon. He's going to be talking about Pacific Island aerograms. So that should be interesting. And then after that, it'll be two people are on here tonight in July. I think it's July 15th, July 16th. I can't remember the date exactly off the top of my head, but Roy is presenting along with David Hopper. So they're going to come back for more punishment.
Don't call it punishment.
Well,
Call it forced labour.
all right. I'll lose my audience if I do that.
Oh.
Anybody have any news to report? We're all sitting here.
Tony, thank you again for your chat. I broadcasted Steve's Zoom meeting to our Queensland PPS group. I'm just wondering if some of our very keen Papua collectors have joined you, Steve, in this Zoom.
Well, they don't have Queensland tattooed on the back of their necks, so it's a little hard for me to tell. But most of these folks I know from elsewhere.
How many people were on the screen? I can only see the five, myself and another four on the screen.
There's 11. Well, there were 14 at one time.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, there's a bar on the top. You should be able to go. There's an arrow. You can go. You can scroll more. Well, I don't. Depending on how you have it configured, but you can. You get the first 5, then you press the arrow and you get the next batch.
Oh, okay. Right.
Yeah, actually, Martin Walker is doing the machine postmarks or postmarking machines. I'm not sure which. There's a Zoom for the Royal of Victoria next Thursday evening.
Yeah, I'm gonna try and make that because by a quirk of fate, I'm doing trying to work up an exhibit on machine cancel errors, but they're from the modern era, from 1970s, 1980s.
Oh, from where?
From Australia.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I think you've still got me down for August, haven't you, Steve?
What's that?
Yeah, I think you've still got me down for August
Yep.
with the postmarking machines, haven't you?
Yep.
I better get my finger out and do something about that.
Well, the reason I was asking actually before about the modern slogan cancels and so on and so forth is there's a lot of stuff in Papua New Guinea that is backwards, upside down, and all. One time I tried to keep track of it. That lasted about a month and a half, and then I stopped. Couldn't keep track.
Yeah, I've accumulated probably. I know I've got 1,500 examples of errors. That a lot of them are duplicated, of course, but date upside down, date months missing,
slug inverted or something.
Yeah. So so that's going to take me a while. Sort of started doing the exhibit, but it's a bit of a challenge.
Yeah, well, I started doing the slogans, and it turned into just for the GPO in Adelaide, and that turned into a monster.
Yeah.
I remember some of the slogans from New Guinea in the mid-90s. they had this, come visit PNG in 1995, I think it was, and the slogans were all over the place. And then one day they stopped using that slogan, and then the next slogan they used after that was "Medicine cures leprosy." You think, okay, they go for one. I guess they weren't. I guess they decided the tourists weren't looking at this stuff anymore. They moved on and whatever. And I thought that was a little kind of abrupt transition, but what do I know?
Yeah, well, as I said, I better get my finger out and do something about the postmarking machines one. Martin's tackling it too, so I'll be interested to see. He and I have been talking about it, and we've got slightly different opinions, so it's going to be interesting.
Oh, it's good that way.
Yes. Okay. Well, thanks,
well,
Tony.
Tony, yes.
Good. Yeah.
That's all right. That's fine.
Thank you, Tony. It was a great presentation. I loved it. Of course, anything you say to me with the word Papua in it, I'm there. It's good. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And so, okay, then I'm gonna we'll say goodnight at this point. Unless I'm not trying to close it down, but if you got something to say it.
No.
No?
Thank you, Steve, and good night.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Tony.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Steve.
All right,
Thank
take care.
you.
Bye.
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 Bye. Bye.